anybody like to address the council about a matter that is not on the agenda? Yes, ma'am. Please come to the podium and give us your name and address for the record, please.
I would like to know if each of you
Ma'am,
are
could you
elected.
give us your...
Dr. Rosemary Spencer,
Yes, ma'am.
Thomasville resident for over 20 years. Now, are each of you elected at large? You are not at large?
I am elected at large.
All right.
I'm the only one.
The only one.
We have two districts, named District 1 and District 2. There are 2 seats from each district, and then there's one at-large representative on the city council.
Mm-hmm. So how many are elected, how about the city attorney? Is he permanent? And I know Mr. Sykes' hard job, a hard worker, his is permanent. His is permanent
He is appointed by the city council.
by the city council, yes. Okay, we know the feeling, okay. So actually, everyone, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then how about the city attorney?
I'm just hired help.
Aren't we all? All right, thank you. That was my main concern. I wanted to be sure because that's a little bit different than the county does it. Because many of us that live in the Sunnydale, I know I it wrong, Sunnydale Park subdivision are both county and city. So it's most interesting to know about how long are your terms?
4 years.
The mayor's term is 4 years, or it's elected each year?
I'm sorry.
You're elected each year, Mr. Mayor?
The mayor is a 2-year term. My city council seat, for example, is a 4-year term.
4-year term. Mm-hmm. I appreciate that information. Thank you so much.
Would anybody else care to address the council about a matter that is not on the agenda? All right, we'll move on. I'm sorry, ma'am, I did not see you. Please come to the podium and give your name and address.
I'm the person that gave her look 512 East Worcester Street. And in my neighborhood, there's a lot of streets. One is Spare Street and Hardaway, which is on its way. With all this rain that we've been getting, those streets have been basically flooded with water, and the streets are starting to crack. I have seen a few repairs on Spare, but Hardaway is not. It's not getting any repairs, and the most critical repairs on Spare Street in my community, in my neighborhood, it's not getting fixed either. It's just cracking. If you drive up that street, you're not hurt your tire. I'm not a driver, but I know it's not safe conditions for driving. And another thing I had is I noticed that all the rates going up on the utility, and on Hardaway, it could be a good day like today. It don't even rain. But that street stay flooded with water. Water just comes out all the time. And I don't see nothing be done on it. So our water rates continues to go up.
You said Harvard, you talking about bottom between.
The part that's basically like borderline Webster, on down that is not the part like towards Monroe, but other end towards Webster, that part.
Either give us your contact information, or I can give you a phone number that you can call and follow up.
I can give you contact information.
Okay. What's your name again?
I have to spell it, but it's a difficult one.
That's fine.
LAKORTORNETTE.
Okay.
my first name, Fortinet, Gabriel, Gabriel.
And how's the best way to reach you?
I have email, I have, home phone service.
Would you like us to call to the home?
That'd be fine.
What's that number?
229-236-9507.
9507.
Yes, sir.
I'll make sure that we contact you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Would anybody else care to address the council about a matter that is not on the agenda? Yes, ma'am.
My name is Mrs. Wanda Conrad. I live at 142 Rachel Lane. I'm here to address, I would like to have my house back. I would like to have my home back, my husband and I. It has been taken from us. We spent $212,000. We give a check to Mr. Hunter and Mr. Lilly. 2012, they did a quick claim deed on our home and took it from us. As of right now, I had to hire another attorney. There's $87,000 owed on our home from the IRS. And every day it goes up. Now, how can that happen? How can somebody go into the courthouse and do a quick claim deed in 2012 and take our home? That's all I have to say. I hope somebody looks into it before I have to do something else. I hope somebody helps us. Thank you.
Would anybody else like to address the council about a matter that is not on the agenda? All right, seeing none, we'll move to old business. The first matter, the only matter of old business before us this evening is to consider on second reading an ordinance to amend section 13-186, captioned cable television rates, so as to provide for a programming rate adjustment. Ms. Williams,
There's no change to what was presented at the last meeting.
no additional comments?
No additional comments.
Okay. We've heard Ms. Williams. Can I get a motion to adopt this ordinance on second reading? So moved. Second. I have a motion and a second. Any discussion from the council? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, the ayes have it. Thank you, Lynn. All right, we're moving into new business. I understand that a lot of you are here to address various matters of this new business. A couple things to let you know how we proceed here. Particularly with three rezoning items before us. What we're going to do first is we're going to ask city staff to present briefly a summary of the rezoning request. Then we're going to ask the applicant to address the council. Then I'm going to ask anybody who is opposed to a particular rezoning request to address the council. Now, I know a lot of you are here about one or two of these specific rezoning issues. What I will ask is that you have one, two, or three people who can summarize the neighborhoods, the neighbors, or whoever it is that is opposed to the rezoning or in favor of the rezoning to present to the council. It is city council policy to limit presentations to the council to about 3 or 4 minutes. All right? letter of support. City council may elect to support one of the 3 tax credit projects that are being proposed in the city of Thomasville. And we're going to have a discussion. There are 3 that are being proposed, and we're going to discuss which, if any, of those we are going to support. I'd like to begin with now's not the time. I'm sorry. Let it be before us if we can. Okay, I'm sorry, ma'am, we're not discussing these items right now. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Okay. We have 3 proposals before us. Is there a representative of Abington South here this evening? Would you like to address the council about the project or anything that we need to know in deciding which, if any of these, to offer local support to? And for the record, I'm calling these in alphabetical order, so High Point Estates will be next. Yes, sir. Could you give us your name and address and briefly describe your project?
Yes, my name is Trey Google. My address is 677 Park Drive, Atlanta, Georgia. I'm representing the developer for Abington South, and I'll keep this very brief. You guys are all aware of the location of the project and hopefully the quality of the development that we're proposing. The tax credit program is very competitive, and it is a boon to the local economy to provide affordable workforce housing to your constituents and to the greater public in Thomasville to help support economic diversity and economic development. Our project is 80 multifamily family units, which would be divided between 1, 2, and 3 bedrooms, and we comprise approximately 9 acres of the site on Smith Avenue. We believe it's in a great location and is, it's indicative of the city's comprehensive plan to vary housing typologies and economic levels in various neighborhoods, and to spread development around and to provide infill in an existing empty 17-acre lot within the city's boundaries.
Thank you. Council members, do you have any questions specifically about this project as far as it relates to which one of these, again, if any, the city should support? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Is there a representative of High Point Estates with us this evening? Again, sir, if you could give us your name and address, please.
Rhett Holmes from Valdosta, Georgia. We have been working with the Joe Burns family here in Thomasville for several months now, and working with them on helping them redevelop a piece of property they have off of North Martin Luther King Avenue. What we're working with them on is to help them provide affordable housing, but also for them to build a community center over there for the residents and the teenage kids over there. And so that's what we're trying to help accomplish with them. So it is broader than just a housing development. It is also a community development, community plan. So we as affordable housing developers sort of come through and we like to partner with folks like the Burns family who are local, have local participation, will have local ownership in the transaction. So it's a way to give back to the community and have the community be a part of the development. But also this is a special type of application where we're going beyond just providing housing, we're providing resources, we say put money behind the mission to allow the development also of the community center, which they're proposing also. So we take this a step further wherever we can, and we're just proud to be a part of the partnership with the Burns family and the church there to help them redevelop that site, but also give some economic redevelopment in that particular side of town. It has not gotten as much economic development, potentially in the housing development area. So we believe a quality product with quality people, all locally driven and motivated. So we're super excited about it, and we ask for your support.
Any questions from the council? Thank you, sir. All right, and finally, is there a representative of Victoria Place Senior Apartments with us this evening? Let you know what I'm going to ask. Name and address.
Brian Parent, 4110 South Point Boulevard, Jacksonville, Florida. Represent the Victoria Place Apartments. Just so you all know, this is a 60-unit, proposed to be a 60-unit, 55 and over, affordable senior housing development. It is located in the Victoria Place redevelopment district, which is what drew us to that area. The city has put in substantial resources through local funds and state funds. We want to come in here and create a additional private investment that we think will help spur the continued redevelopment of that area. And we think this is a good project. Additionally, on our site is the 1854 historic Wright House. We have committed to preserving that and also utilizing that for the community's office and some community functions as well.
Any questions from the council about the Victoria Place Senior Apartments? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, we have heard these three tax credit applicants discuss briefly their projects. We will study these at length in workshops. Is there any discussion about which of these, again, if any, we're going to support, give support from the city?
You know, I just thank all three of you for being here. Thank you for that, for the photocopy you showed in Thomasville needs. We know that we need more low-income housing, and we also know that through this tax credit, it's a very high-quality product that we get, and we appreciate all three of you in the effort you put in Thomasville. Mayor, do we want to express our preferences? How do you want to talk?
Yeah, let's express, if you have a preference, let's express a preference, and maybe at least four.
Okay. I have to say my preference would be the High Point property, for several reasons. And primarily, I believe that the location of that property really serves the need in Thomasville, that the area there now around Carroll Hill is ripe for this development, and there's a great deal of demand there. That development in that area also brings in some properties that it's an infill property that hasn't been developed in a way there. So again, my preference would be that.
Would anybody else like to express an opinion? I tend to agree with you. One of the concerns, one of the considerations I think as a council we should consider is the investment in the particular areas. And in the Smith Avenue area, it's obvious to me on the ground that there are other activities going on there. Victoria Park area, I don't know how anybody could miss the level of activity that's going on there. It's a tremendous level of activity. But I do believe the Carroll Hill area has been somewhat neglected, and if this is a way to attract investment to the Carroll Hill area, that would have my support. But I'd love to hear from the rest of you. All right. I want to thank all the applicants as well. motion to, can I get a motion to approve any one of these?
Yeah, I know that we. The high part of the states.
All right, we have a motion. We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? All right, the ayes have it, passes unanimously. All right, item B on the agenda is to consider on first reading an ordinance to rezone property located at North Martin Luther King Drive and Alton Avenue from R1 to R2. The applicant is New Generation Christian Centers and E.H. Daniels. Could we get, who from the, who's going to present that from the city staff? Brian. If you could briefly give us an overview of the application process.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Council. As you said, this is planning and zoning item 214-67, and the applicants are New Generation Christian Centers Ministries and Elaine Daniels. And the request is from to change the zoning from R1 to R2 CU. The staff recommends approval of the rezoning with conditions essentially for 5 reasons. Number 1, the project exceeds the vision conveyed in the comprehensive plan as the applicant has agreed to a number of high-quality design features that promote traditional neighborhood development principles, including a neighborhood community center that will service both new and existing neighborhoods, walkable streets, and inviting civic spaces and trails to be enjoyed by both new and existing residents. And of note, the community is proposed to connect to the multi-use bike and walking trail. Number 2, the project far exceeds the standards required by the city's zoning ordinance. Staff requested and the developer has agreed to additional stipulations that reflect new urbanist design principles. These principles are based on the recently adopted Victoria Place form-based code. Number 3, if the parcel is rezoned as proposed, these stipulations carry forth with the rezoning, regardless of whether or not the project is actually built, ensuring positive development on this tract for many years to come. And this is just to reiterate that the stipulations are attached to the zoning, not the development. Number 4, the applicant has agreed to develop a specific site plan that maintains the city's existing block and street network. And number 5, as noted previously, a new entry road will be constructed during the initial development phase, linking Martin Luther King to the proposed community center and multi-family residences. Despite connectivity to existing streets, the majority of daily trips into and out of the development will utilize this new road. And upon a motion of Stephen Shea and seconded by Rudolph Elsie, the Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval of the rezoning request from R1 to R2, essentially agreeing with the staff, and the motion passed 8-0, and the chairman did vote.
Thank you. I meant to ask this before we got started on this item, but who is here in opposition to the rezoning of this parcel at North Martin Luther King Drive and Alton Avenue? If you could raise your hand, although it is a little bit difficult to see with these lights. Is anybody here in opposition to the rezoning of this parcel? Am I correct? If I'm missing somebody, even though I asked you not to do this, holler at me. It's kind of bright up there. All right, who is here in support of the rezoning of this parcel? Is there anyone here in support of the rezoning of this parcel? All right. There has been, I believe you said there's been no further comment, no further input. Can we get a motion before the council to rezone this parcel from R1 to R2 conditional use? Second. All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, the ayes have it. Just so that you know, in the audience, we rezoned rezone by ordinance. Ordinance requires 2 votes. So this is going to have to come before the council again a week from Wednesday, which is a special date for our regular meeting that will take place at the end of this month. But that date is going to fall on Memorial Day, so it's going to be moved up 5 days to be a week from Wednesday, which is the 21st. Okay? Right, 21st at 5 p.m. Hopefully downstairs in the council chambers this time. All right, item C on the agenda is to consider on first reading an ordinance to rezone property located at 1101 Smith Avenue from R1 to R2 conditional use. Wade Chastain is the Wade Chastain Estate, excuse me, is the applicant. Right before we get started, could you raise your hands if you are here in opposition to this rezone? It's a considerable amount. Thank you. Could you raise your hands if you are in support of this rezone? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As you said, this is planning and zoning item 214-08, and the applicant is the Wade Chastain Estate. One correction, the rezoning request is actually from A, agricultural, to C2, commercial, with conditions. It's not R2. So this, actually, the staff recommendation is very similar to what I just presented. We do recommend approval, and there are 5 reasons. The project exceeds the vision conveyed in the comprehensive plan, as the applicant has agreed to a number of high-quality design features that promote traditional neighborhood development principles. These include a mixed-use commercial center along Smith Avenue, walkable streets, and inviting civic spaces and trails. Along these lines, the development is designed so that buildings front the streets as opposed to an apartment complex or strip center. So we're actually creating streets and blocks, not just sort of a suburban apartment complex or a suburban strip mall. And also the community is proposed to connect to the multi-use trail as the previous one was. The project far exceeds the standards required by the city's zoning ordinance. Staff requested and the developer agreed to additional stipulations that reflect new urbanist design principles. These principles are based on the recently adopted Victoria Place form-based code. Number 3, if the parcel is rezoned as proposed, these stipulations will carry forth with the rezoning regardless of whether or not the project is built, ensuring positive development on the tract for many years to come. And number 4, the applicant has agreed to develop to a specific site plan the multi-family housing, civic spaces, trail system, and all related infrastructure, including the new entry road, will be built in the initial phase. This infrastructure establishes, as noted, establishes a traditional block and street pattern, all but ensuring that later phases will be constructed similar to what is shown on the site plan. And number 5, a new entry road will be constructed during the initial development phase, linking Smith Avenue to the proposed multifamily residences. Despite connectivity to existing streets, the majority of daily trips into and out of the development will utilize this road. And upon a motion of Harry Tomlinson, seconded by Rudolph Elzey, the Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval as requested, as to the requested rezoning from agricultural to C2 commercial, with the following conditions. Number 1, the site to be developed as per stipulations, including the connection of Brown Street and Whitehurst Street. The site will be developed as per stipulations, including the connection of Brown Street and Whitehurst Street, but temporarily close Whitehurst Street until such time as a traffic light is installed at the intersection of Market Street and at the intersection of Market Street and Smith Avenue. The responsibility to later open this
Market Street, is that the new street?
Yeah, I'm sorry. So the new street will essentially come down straight south from the proposal, and it would tie in with Market Street at that intersection there. So, and the responsibility to open that temporary closure of Whitehurst Street will be that of City Council based upon a recommendation of planning staff. This motion passed 5-3, and the chairman did vote.
Okay. Thank you. Is a representative of the developer of this project, I know they're here, we spoke earlier. Could we speak to the representative of the developer briefly, please?
Okay.
Hi there. Do you have anything to add or address about the rezoning request? Were you at the planning and zoning meeting?
Yes, I was at the planning and zoning meeting.
And briefly, we won't.
Yes, sir.
Briefly, do you have anything to address some of the concerns that were expressed at that meeting, or anything that would assist the council in evaluating this rezoning application?
Yes, I would. I would like to point out again, the reason why we were at the location, which was previously explained. We also do urban communities, which is important, which is where a lot of the connectivity came from, the concept of, connecting existing street networks and Market Street, good city planning principles, which we worked very hard at. We listened to, all the comments that the neighbors brought up. We also listened to our neighborhood meeting that we had. And we proffered several site plans, variations on connectivity that were considered. And, obviously the one that was approved through planning and zoning was the Brown Street and the opening enclosure of Whitehurst. We feel that this project is important, and that the proposed apartment development in the rear is the appropriate construction typology to bridge the gap between commercial and residential that's there. Whether or not the streets are open immediately or in the future, as the city decides, is something we'd like to open up, of course, for you guys. I think you guys have the opportunity to amend any approvals if you see fit. But without belaboring any other points, I won't get into anything unless you have any questions.
Any questions from the council?
Is it critical that, to your project, that you open up, Brown and Whitehurst?
Obviously, it would be our preference, as it was the way that it's good city planning principles. However, what's important for our project is that it be able to go forward.
But you could move forward with just, Smith Avenue?
Yes, sir.
Any other questions? All right, thank you, sir. We may have a few more questions at the end of this for you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. We had a large number of people who indicated that they were in opposition to this rezoning. If several of you would like to address the council, we invite you to do so now. Again, with the understanding that the comments be fairly succinct and to the point, so that we can clearly understand what issues are driving the opposition. There may be multiple different sets of issues, and we'll hear those, but we ask that we not hear redundant information. Would somebody like to address the council in opposition to the rezoning of 1101 Smith Avenue? If you could give us your name and address, sir.
I'm Pat Clendenin. I live on the corner of Whitehurst and East Street, and this is a new experience for me. I'm really on that side. To be honest with you, I feel a little safer over here. I don't have to tell you why we're here, guys. We just do not want a 80-unit apartment complex for choice of words, dumping their traffic in on a quiet residential established neighborhood. We never in the history of Thomasville have we ever allowed an apartment complex to dump their traffic into a single-family residential area. Never, never, never. So why are we here? I don't know if you're aware or not, but I've talked to the owners and friends. Their first development from the plans from these developers didn't show any access to our area. Okay, what does that mean to me? That means this, like you said, this development does not need these exits to make this a feasible project. Okay? So, if they don't need it, and we don't want it, why are we here today? I mean, why would this even come up if they don't need it and we don't want it? Well, I can go through the more entrances to an area that emergency vehicles have, the safer it is. Does that make sense? Sure. Okay, now, let's think about this. And the reason I'm going through this story because my last statement on it. Okay, we're served by Remington Fire Station. Okay, we now have another exit that they can get to us by on Market Street. So, my house is on fire. I'm gonna go out, straight out. Of course, you can see Pine Tree Boulevard, but they're saying they're gonna go into town, Covington Avenue, go across Covington Avenue, Smith Avenue, go Smith Avenue, Market Street, go into the development, go through the commercial area, through their apartment complex, down Whitehurst. Probably what they're gonna do is come out, turn right on Pine Tree Boulevard, go down Pine Tree Boulevard, and go down Market Street. Now, in saying that, what this shows me is that I'm not criticizing anybody, but we need to know better. Had the city planning department understood that we were served by Remington Fire Station, they wouldn't mention this because it's foolish to do so. Well, okay, let's be fair. Your new city planner's been here, what, 4, 5, 6 months? Okay, how on earth can you understand situations like this? Okay? All right, and that's actually one of the reasons we're here today. All right, we were also told,
Mr. Quinn, if you could summarize and
well, I'm speaking for a lot of people, give me a little slide,
a
okay?
couple minutes.
Okay, all right. My point is, they don't want it, we don't want it. Why did this even come up? Why are we even here? Now, in the presentation that was made to us, the city planner's presentation, he told us why it's so important that we intermingle these properties. All right, now, I'm going to read this because it's fairly complicated, but in philosophy, and this is exactly what he's saying, he is interconnecting dissimilar problems so as to form a large, homogeneous, all-encompassing neighborhood. What does this mean? In real life, this means he wants commercial areas, multifamily areas, single-family areas to be interconnected so traffic from one can freely travel to another. All right? That's what zoning is all about, to prevent this kind of stuff from happening.
I don't think that necessarily zoning is about presenting one group and coming to another, but
Zoning,
I understand.
zoning is protecting areas.
Yes, sir.
That when that 80 apartment complex is going to dump 200 cars, 300 cars into our neighborhood, that's going to affect our neighborhood. That is what zoning is for. All right, here's the fact of the matter.
All right, so if you could summarize, please.
That's what I'm doing. This fact of the matter. This should never be. Reason we're getting inundated by traffic is a new vision by the city planner, who is obviously not aware of who we are. We are a group of older citizens, own our houses, and we moved in this area specifically for a quiet neighborhood. Let me ask you something. Obviously, city management is looking after the developer. The developer's going to do what he wants to do. He doesn't need it. The city planner is looking at himself. Okay? He wants his.
I'm not sure that's a fair
Here's,
assessment.
okay, all right. His philosophy. Okay?
Yes, sir, I will. Henry Williams, 1700 Brown Street, Thomasville, Georgia. Been a resident there for 25 years.
Yes, sir.
Uh,
I did let Mr. Clendenin go a little long, but
Yes,
let's try to, please, from here on, let's limit it
I
to
will.
2 or 3 minutes.
I will yield and try to get back in time.
Yes, sir.
I'd like to thank you, gentlemen up here, for allowing me to address you this afternoon. I think I speak to the whole neighborhood when I say that we're not opposing the rezoning of the Chastain Estate and the development of the apartments. What we are opposing is the opening of Whitehurst and Brown Street. We've got a very unique neighborhood. There's little or no crime in that neighborhood. Less than 25 incidents in 25 years. There's not a lot of neighborhoods that can say that.
You're scared of you, Henry.
No, sir. Well, that may be the case. We as neighbors try to look out for one another. We have a couple of officers there that live in the vicinity, and one lives right beside me, Mr. Drawley. We are totally opposed, and I speak for this neighborhood. I don't speak for Henry Williams, my wife, and my family. I'm speaking for this whole neighborhood. We totally oppose the opening of Whitehurst and Brown. I want to make that very clear. We do not oppose the rezoning. We welcome it.
Mr. Williams, this is a little bit unconventional, but if I may, I'd like to get, if I could, to see what the people who are here in opposition to this are. Again, if you are opposed to this rezoning in general, as presented, would you please raise your hand? All right. If these streets are not reopened, who's still opposed to it? I think we understand.
I speak for the majority, sir.
Yes, sir.
Just a couple other things, and I'll be brief, sir. Traffic volume would be devastating in our neighborhood if they open those 2 streets up. Brown Street is 25 feet and 10 inches wide. It allows curbside parking on both sides of the street. No room there. I've been in law enforcement for 2 decades, or over 2 decades. There's no room there for two-way traffic. The option there would be for the city to widen that street to take more of our property. I'm the big folks would oppose that, and I know I would. Yes, sir. We do appreciate the city considering and paving Brown Street though, finally. I want to give perks for perks are reserved. And that happened on quite a ways back. The developer mentioned that it would dump more than 500 vehicle traffics or vehicular traffic out onto Brown Street or Whitehurst. That's not going to work. That's a poor traffic plan.
We understand. And thank you, sir.
Our neighborhood's working class folks. They're retired elderly. We don't want to be connected.
Yes, sir.
Just to put it plain and simple too.
Thank you. We'll hear one more in opposition.
Somebody else gonna go?
If it can be brief, then please. All right.
My name is Bethany Coombs. I own the home at 116 Wheat Street, which is right across the street from Mr. Clendenin. I have one very quick point to make. Friday, I received my 8th contract with the city school system. In my contract, I already have 5 furlough days I will work without pay because of a decreased tax revenue. If the streets open up, our home values go down. Home values go down, tax revenue goes down. Tax revenue goes down, my paycheck goes down. The house I bought 6 months ago, a year from now, I will be upside down in, no way to sell, no way to move, not as safe as I was, and no money to put up a privacy fence, and no paycheck to pay the mortgage. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. I'm going to let you come forward and give your name and address and ask the council a question. Not sure we can answer.
I appreciate
name and address, please, sir.
My name is John Moss, 1701 Brown Street, and the only concern I would have in a form of a question, can we do anything if it is rezoned, without the condition of opening up those roads? Is there anything that we can do to ensure that there wouldn't be a loophole exploited or a backdoor that would, at a future time, would enable what we are opposed to? I mean, I'm not sure, I'm asking for.
I believe I understand your question.
So, okay, that was.
I believe I understand your question. And the answer is, I'm not sure that this council can do anything that's permanent. I don't think we have that capability to make decisions until the end of time, but there are some other mechanisms that can be done. If we speak with the developer again, please. If that's all right. Do any council members have any questions or concerns about what we've heard from the neighbors in opposition to this they'd like to address?
Seems like the neighbors, if you didn't open, Brown and Whitehurst, they would not be opposed to your project. Would that, be suitable to you?
Yes, sir.
One of the things that developing the infrastructure so that a future decision could be made if circumstances change, I do think would be wise. However, I believe we could probably put a condition in this rezoning that those streets cannot be opened without an ordinance from the city council. An ordinance would, as this does, and you're all here before us, require not just one vote of the city council, but two, so that adequate notice would be given to the neighbors, etc. Would that be a condition, if those streets cannot be opened to vehicular traffic without an ordinance from the city council? Would that be something that's agreeable to you? That's to address the question that the gentleman asked earlier, is what can be done so that the zoning doesn't pass and 2 years, 5 years, whatever, after this council has moved on to grant pastures, the streets can't be reopened without adequate notice and input from the neighbors. Would that be something that's agreeable to you?
I believe that's appropriate. I believe that is appropriate. It may very well be that one day that the people behind me would want to connect to. I'm not saying that they do right now, obviously, but it may be that the people that live there beyond.
Just leave the door open,
Yes, sir.
but leave it so that the door potentially can be open, but it takes several keys. All right, any other questions from the council? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right. Very briefly, if one person has a question, I'd like to hear from you. Ma'am, yes, please, come. Give us your name and address, please.
My name is Jeananne Parrish, and I have lived in Sunnydale for 32 years, all of my married life. When Bob and I got married, we bought the house we're in now. We've worked along on it. We've taken pride in it. We take pride in our quiet and safe neighborhood, and we really would like to keep it that way. And I just want to thank the mayor and the council for listening to us and being attuned to our problems. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. We've heard a lot of information. Mr. Williams, briefly, please, sir. You're only a very short clock. You didn't have it.
Mr. Glenn Timmons took it, right? Okay, never mind. I have one question. What about a walking trail through Whitehurst and Brown Street? We don't want that either. To open up a walking trail.
There's currently a right of way through there.
Yes, sir.
There's a right of way through there. I don't see any reason why we should close that. I don't know that you can close existing public right of what are the council's thoughts?
You know, my thought, quite frankly, is that they are gonna be neighbors, and
Yes, sir.
you're accepting the community as is, with some restriction. I believe whether you allow a walking trail or not, there'll be people walking through there. I think the best thing to do would be to open it so it could be easily accessed, walking and biking. It's actually a strong initiative for our community as well, across the community. And that's one of my reasons why I prefer the other property is our walking and biking trail across our community, on my property, the north line. My thought would be that restricting that over and above all the other restrictions would not be the right answer. I think it should be.
You don't know, you ask, sir. Y'all have a good day, thank you.
Then if it does, without having you come forward and address the council, I'm just pretty to say I have no idea. I mean, no idea.
Mr. Williams named that property, you'll need to take that up with him.
All right. Can we have a motion to rezone this property on first reading from agricultural to C2 with the condition that the two roads, somebody help me out, Brown and Whitehurst, are to remain closed through traffic, through vehicular traffic, until such a time, should it ever occur, as a city ordinance is passed opening those roads. We have a motion. And we have a second. Is there any further discussion from the council? All right, hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, the ayes have it. Again, assuming that nothing changes, this will be on the agenda again in 9 days, 5 o'clock, at the city council, or city council meeting. All right, item D on the agenda is an ordinance to rezone property located at 415 Alexander Street from R1 to R2. Mr. Greg Hobbs is the applicant, so we're going to ask you to step down, please, sir. No, sir, y'all take your time. We'll pause for a minute for y'all.
Is there anything else y'all want?
Thank you all for being here.
All right, I think we're about ready to begin with item D of new business. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. All right, as we have done with the two prior rezoning matters, I want to first hear from Mr. Herman about what the staff report and activities at the Planning and Zoning Commission were, and then we'll talk to anybody who is in opposition and or support of this rezoning ordinance. Right, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council again. This is Planning and Zoning item 214-5, and the applicant is Gregory Hobbs, and the request is rezoned from R1 to R2 with conditions. Essentially, in summary, or in short summary, the applicant wants to build either a triplex, or they approach staff and wanted to build either a triplex or a duplex on the site. The staff worked with the applicant to come up with a design that actually would allow two duplexes. What it would do is essentially the way it would read from the street is one house, or excuse me, it's two houses sort of fitting in with the character of the historic neighborhood, we believe, as opposed to a triplex, which we felt like was going to kind of look more like a motel, sort of taking up the whole lot, horizontally. And so we worked with the applicant, and that's what we came up with on the proposal for two duplexes. As with the previous ones, our previous rezonings, we use a couple of different factors when we're approving or recommending approval or rezoning. In this case, there are two primary reasons. Number one, the project exceeds the vision conveyed in the comprehensive plan, as the applicant has agreed to a number of high-quality design features that promote traditional neighborhood development principles, including an active streetscape with front porches or stoops, historically inspired architecture, and parking that is located to the side or rear of the lot. And number two, stipulations that attached to the proposal exceed the standards of the current zoning ordinance and reflect best practices within the planning and design professions. These principles are critical to ensuring that the new infill, including this proposal, is of the same character and intensity as the historic neighborhood. So therefore, upon a motion by Dr. Amy McElroy, seconded by Rosemary Boykins, the Planning and Zoning Commission recommended denial of the rezoning request, and the motion passed 9-0, and the chairman did vote. So they actually voted against the staff.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Hobbs? And all of you know Mr. Hobbs is on the city council and is mayor pro tem. In this rezoning question, though, we have to treat him no different than any other applicant. He will not get any special advantage nor disadvantage because of his position on the city council. So, Mr. Hobbs, would you address the council about what was presented by Mr. Herman and any particular issues you'd like to address before us related to some of the concerns?
Thank you, Mayor. When the meeting was Monday night with the Planning and Zoning Department, the Planning and Zoning Department and the Planning and Zoning Commission, I did not attend. I did not want to go to that meeting to intimidate the board. I sit on the council that appoints that board, so with all due respect, I feel like I did not need to go. After meeting with the Planning and Zoning Department, and like I said, that I met with them and all the requirements that was necessary, and that was why I didn't know. But to make the Dewey City neighborhood feel more confident, some of the questions that come up about, or some concerns come up about crime. I sit on the public safety committee that Chief Jackson talked to us once a month about crime in the community, and that concern is not something that we have to be worried about in that neighborhood. Number two, I think we said that we low-income housing. That's not true. If you consider a two-bedroom apartment and someone's going to pay $575 a month, it's not low income. And I think number three was the historic district. I'm aware of this so-called historic district that they're Douglas or Blue City, but I have no problem with putting whatever materials on the apartment building to make Blue City neighborhood continue to be a historic district, if that's what it is. So, as the plan said, I propose a duplex or a triplex. That's either 2 units or 3 units. One building if it's 2, one building if it's 3.
Thank you. All right. Same thing we did before. I'm going to ask if you would raise your hand if you are here in opposition to this rezoning request. All right. And I'm going to someone, as before, who can speak for the people in opposition to the rezoning request, please come forward. I'd like to hear. Name and address.
My name is Lavetta Brown. Lavetta Brown Jones. I live at 412 McKellen Street. And first thing we want to address that we are a historical district, and that's according to the National Register. And our concern is that if you don't live in the neighborhood, then you don't know how much crime is there. We are mostly older members that are in the neighborhood that actually own their own property. And the only thing that we request is that we're not opposing of him building a single home building, which would represent our historical neighborhood, because this is the heart of our historical community. It's where he's trying to build, where Mr. Hobbs is trying to build. So, that's in addition to all the other things that we have already addressed.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Would anybody else like to address the council in opposition to this rezoning ordinance?
Eric Barnfield, 406 Alexander Street. I'm sort of like the fella that just left. We don't care to be force-fed. You know, if he had a plan, first of all, he should have came to the community. First of all, you don't go to somebody's house and pour something on them. And that's what you all supposed to be up here for. You're supposed to be up here to be equal, representative, and listen to the majority. We was up here the other week, and I'm thinking this thing is over with. Won by majority. Here we are up here again this week. So what is the majority? What does the majority represent?
Well, let me stop you there. What you were before last week was the Planning and Zoning Commission that makes a recommendation to the city council. The city council is the only one who can make a decision to rezone. That's just an advisory board, and then it comes before the city council for the decision on whether to rezone or not. Like with the previous ones, if were this to pass this evening, it has to go before the city council again on first and second reading. So,
Okay, so we just like the group that just left. We don't want them. Like,
would anybody else like to address the council in opposition to this matter?
Yes, my name is Nancy Vickers, representing 117 Beach Street in Lewis City. Was raised there all my life. I'm in my 50s now. We built that home. My mom built that home, and I was 2 years old, and I'm in my 50s now. And all the time in Lewis City, we all stuck together. You know, we was as one. Lewis City is one of the places where it's well known. It's Lewis City. All the older people, we look out for them and everything. And I have been on the other side of the fence in the drug arena, because I'm a recovering alcoholic drug addict. I know how they think, because I've been there. If you ain't walk in the shoes, you don't know nothing about it. But I've been clean 20-something years. You know, and my concern is that anytime you go and you look, anytime you bring, see, most of everybody own over there. You don't hardly hear people just moving into a city, moving out. So anytime you have duplexes and stuff like that, for some reason, I can't tell you why, but drugs take up there. If you look up any new thing that comes about, they got to try. That's how drug addicts think. We ain't never, we got these duplexes, so let's hang out over there, because they ain't gonna look for us over there. So I'm like everybody else, we don't want it. If it's not broken, why try to fix it? Do it, city's fine, just the way it is. It's always been there, and we don't, and it is drugs in Lewis City. But we look out for each other and try to keep that down. Like if you don't live there, you don't know what's there. And my thing is that we need to stop, all it is, every time now you turn around, somebody trying to build something to make money. It ain't about that. Let's have some morals and standards in our life, and Thomasville would be much better. So we just don't want it.
All right, we've heard from 3 people in opposition. Would anybody like to speak in support of the rezone? All right, Mr. Hobbs? You've heard the arguments of the presumed neighbors of the target properties being rezoned and concerns about crime and whatnot. What information do you have for us that would help us?
Mayor, would not be fair if we as a people in the neighborhood sit there and say that because a building gonna get built, whether it's an apartment or a house, they said the people that's gonna be moving in are gonna be criminals or gonna have criminal activity. That's just not a good statement. It's not fair to the people that need a place to stay.
The single family versus multifamily mix in that neighborhood. I've been in the neighborhood, there are a lot of multifamily, how duplexes, triplexes, et cetera, what makeup is that?
In that neighborhood, from this property that I'm asking to be rezoned, there are 4 duplexes within 300 feet of the property that I own. And speaking of owners in the community in Dewey City, I'm probably one of the ones that have the most properties in Dewey City. And to invest in a neighborhood such as Dewey City, these people must be mad because they complain about the grass growing on these vacant lots. There are several houses that should either be torn down or repaired. And to say that they don't even want this. And speaking of crime, I spent 5 years fighting crime, drugs, alcohol, what have you. And I work for the sheriff's department, so I know about crime. And to say that I just want to make money, that's a true statement, no doubt. But I have more concerns other than just making money. I have 3 neighbors that's going to move into their triplex. 2 of them work for Archibald and have been for the past 12 years. And 1 of them used to work for Archibald and now works for the Thomasville City School System. And I feel like those people should be able to move into that neighborhood into a triplex or a duplex, whichever they do.
All right.
Sean, you mentioned that you had built or owned other properties in this neighborhood.
Yes, sir.
How many properties do you own in there? Or have you owned?
Well, the ones I currently own right now is about 9.
9.
And they were built within the past 10 years.
Those are single family homes you sold over there?
That is correct.
Any other duplexes in there, multi-family at all?
That I have built
That
in
you
that
built?
neighborhood, not in that neighborhood.
I
I have built duplexes on Harris Street that these are gonna look identical to, or should look identical to, 1 story.
Mr. Hobbs, as you know, this puts the council in somewhat of a difficult position. On one hand, we have neighbors that are opposed to the rezoning. On the other hand, there's a fairly well-trodden path down what procedures we have to follow when we consider whether we rezone a piece of property or not. And the legal criteria for doing so are fairly well defined. And so, to a certain extent, the discretion the council has, certainly without a voluntary modification of an application by an said, we have an application before us. I believe I need a motion from the council, one way or the other on this. Yes, sir.
And I understand the opposition. One of the problems is seen by the citizens. And before I go any further, let me commend you for being the citizen that you are. In too many neighborhoods, it's mucky see, mucky don't do. But you stuck together, even if you were wrong, came out as a group, and until other communities get together and work as a group, they're not going to progress, so you should be commended for that. Having said that, it's difficult to act on purely subjective judgment, no matter where it came from. One, the notion that crime would be increased because of that particular building, assuming that it comes anyway, put the tenant in a real difficult position, because when they find out that they're living in an apartment that the rest of the neighbors didn't warn them, that they are perceived to be criminals just by the occupation of that place. And as Mr. Harvey said earlier, $575 a month, that's hardly low income. And I have a personal problem where you try to equate poverty and crime. See what I'm saying? People are not criminals just because they're poor. They're not. It doesn't mean that people that move in there are already there. No. What I am saying is poverty in and of itself does not make you a certain should make you criminal. Now, I understand that there are 4 duplexes in 300 feet of the property in question. Would you still have opposition if we build a duplex as opposed to a triplex? I see one hand. Okay, am I correct to assume then that if he was trying to build a duplex, he wouldn't have the heated opposition that he's getting now?
Doesn't mean anything that we are historical district. And plus the houses that Mr. Hobbs have are very.
Ma'am.
I can't hear you, ma'am.
Ma'am, if you're going to,
Please come forward.
Councilmember Lewis asked a question, but if we're going to have it back and forth, let's hear it.
I asked a question, would you address it to me?
Yes. It does mean something. It should mean, just because we are a historical district, we are. It should mean, and with that guideline alone, there is nowhere that duplexes or triplexes have ever been endured in the city area.
You're absolutely right. Let me stop right there. Now, the issue of historic didn't come up in and of itself by itself. That was just one of a litany of things. You know, one that was drag, one that was crime, and now the historic aspect of it. And I owe all of you an apology, because I was intending to research that historic aspect a little more thoroughly, because that's a significant thing, because that can afford you some grant money and other things. You know, I mean, if it really is. Nevertheless, if the applicant, and like the mayor has said, because he is on the city council, which is training and things, but he doesn't give up his right as a citizen just because he's a councilman. Nor does he have more rights because he's a councilman. But the 6th thing that let me say this too, the planning and zoning commission voted, as you know, so to find people to work hard to achieve the objective of this community. None of the 6 things that you outlined, you were going to accept or reject an applicant were dealt with in any large committee. In other words, existing use of zoning in nearby property. Well, yeah, 300 people you have existing use. Okay, so that would be a plus, and it's going to be started. But we didn't get credit for that. zoning restriction. To the extent, how does that property value diminish by the restriction? You didn't get credit for positive response on that. Third, and now question. The extent to which the destruction of property value of affected property owners promote the health, safety, moral, or general welfare of the public. Now, that I can't speak to. I don't know, and I don't think the council can speak to it. I don't think planning and zoning can speak to it. You know, not knowing who the officers want to be. But again, I think that you've exercised your right to oppose this, done it in a respectful manner. You'll also be commended on. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. If you can give us your name and address, please.
Geraldine McIntyre, 301 Burn Street. I grew up part of my life in Dewey City, just as some of these people have. And it seems to me there's always something. You know, we don't want all of this. He didn't grow up over there. He don't even know what Dewey City means to us. And we do not want this.
Thank you, ma'am. Yes, sir.
Mayor, my wife, who I've been married to, been together for 28 years. She was born and raised in Dewey City. I bought 310 Bar Street when I was 19 years old. Just, I got out of high school.
That's about 6 years ago.
It was an old house that I purchased and renovated. So, to tell me about Dewey City, I know about Dewey City. Thank you. Unless you ask a question.
Okay. Let me say this in defense of my own concern about Dewey City. None of you know this. I haven't talked about it at any point because I didn't want to. But I went up against some real powerful people who were friends of mine on behalf of Dewey City. Some of the most powerful men in the state wanted Douglas to go in a different direction. You had to call for me. I challenged my friends on what they wanted. They reluctantly saw it my way. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Can I get a, sir, I believe we've, very, very briefly. Sir.
My name is Woodruff. And what I want to say before y'all make a decision is our community is basically should be set up in a democracy. We have a problem already because we don't even vote for the mayor, so we don't have a democracy. We don't vote for the mayor. You all vote for your welfare, right? These people are a majority. So one thing y'all really need to do is put on the agenda that we vote for who we want as the mayor. That would be one thing.
Thank you. All right. Can I get a motion one way or the other from the council?
I make a motion that we approve based on the 6 points that were addressed by the planning commission, and I think answered adequately. And I realize that there's opposition to this, but I also realize that we don't have people that are investing in this community, we're doomed. I make a motion that we approve the rezoning.
All right. We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion from the council? All right, hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? All right, the ayes have it, passes on first B on the agenda. National Fire Protection Association 101 Life Safety Code 2012 edition. Fire Marshal Connell, would you please present that to us when you have an opportunity to make it up front? We'll pause a minute while the citizens who would like to leave do so. All right, Mr. Connell.
Thank you, Mr.
Go
Mayor.
ahead.
I come before you to ask for the consider the first reading of the ordinance to adopt the National Fire Protection Association NFPA 101 Life Safety Code 2012 edition. This is to be in line with the state adoption of 2012 Life Safety Code.
All right, we discussed this briefly in workshop. Is there any discussion from the council about this, or can we get a motion to adopt this ordinance on first reading?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the ayes have it. You also have item F for us to consider on first reading an ordinance to amend the code of the city by adding chapter 12, public safety, and article open burning, commercial and residential burning. We discussed that in workshop as well. This is mainly to keep us in line with state requirements for open burning. Do you have anything to add to that?
Mr. Mayor, this ordinance, we're asking this ordinance not to restrict or deny anybody the burning right. This should allow us to oversee that the burning is done legally and safely.
Okay. Can we have a motion to adopt this ordinance? All right, I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion from the council? And I do keep a record in case you need to be on this. The city clerk has limited audio capabilities, limited hearing capabilities. All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All right, hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. The ayes have it. Thank you, Mr. Connell.
Thank you.
All right, next we have Mr. Pinessa to present an ordinance for street paving assessments. Again, this was discussed in open workshop. So Jerry, anything to add with what was discussed in workshop? What were the streets again that are affected by this?
The streets are Alston Lane, Blackshear Street, Broadneck Street, Hatcher Street, Metcalf Avenue, Lucy Street, Bell Street, Rockwood Trail, Sally Street. The actual portions of the street are listed there.
Okay. This is a routine event when we pave new streets, or excuse me, pave streets that were previously dirt streets. An assessment that's been put in place for years. Is there any comment or discussion? Can I get a motion to adopt this ordinance on first reading?
Second.
We have a motion, a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. All right, next we have an ordinance to transfer 25 acres located adjacent to the Second Harvest property from the city of Thomasville to the Payroll Development Authority. Ms. Shelley Zorn, our Economic Development Director, is here.
Good evening. I'm your new economic developer. My name is Shelley Zorn, and as you've already heard in the work session, I'm here on behalf of the Payroll Development Authority. They would like to request that a lot owned by the city of Thomasville be donated to the Payroll Development Authority for the use of economic development and job creation. The lot is actually 25.66 acres. It's located in the existing industrial park on Rosemary Drive, just next to the new Second Harvest Food Bank.
Okay. As we discussed, the,
That's Roseway.
If you say so.
as we discussed in workshop, this will enable the payroll development authority to do things with this property that the city of Thomasville can't, so this can be better utilized to bring economic growth and jobs to our community. Can I get a motion to pass this ordinance to transfer this property? So moved. All right, we have a motion. Second. And a second. Is there any discussion from the council? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you, Shelley. All right, next we have to consider approval of a packaged beer and wine license change of ownership at Harvey's Supermarket, number 1619, 306 Smith Avenue, and Harvey's Supermarket, number 1620, 1404 East Jackson Street. Sampson Merger Sub LLC is the applicant. If you gentlemen could give us your names and describe why you're here on behalf of the applicant.
Okay, I'm Joey Fudge, store manager at Harvey's on Jackson Street. We're just a representative of the company to reapply for our license under a different name.
Yes, sir.
Holding company.
And I'm Roger Johnson. I'm at 309 Smith Avenue. Like I said, we're along with the ride with Harvey's, and like I said, we're just trying to carry on the name.
I understand. Ms. Vincent, has this applicant met all the qualifications? Thank you. All right, you've heard Ms. Vincent, you've heard the applicants. Can I get a motion to award the packaged beer and wine license to these two Harvey supermarkets?
So moved. Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All right, hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, the ayes have it. Now, gentlemen, I know you are well aware of what our local alcoholic beverage license ordinances say. However, I'm going to give you a package outlining those, including the requirement for a written training policy for your employees. The reason the city council likes to hand you these in person is so that we know that you know that we know what these licenses are. And if you don't have the appropriate training programs in place, it leads to a different set of punishments should a violation occur. We wish you both well. We thank you for rehabilitation that has been done and the investments you've made in our local community. We wish you all the best. Thank you. All right, up next is to consider approval of a contract. And gentlemen, by the way, I apologize for the length of this meeting. Normally you would have been long gone, an hour and a half later. All right, next we have to consider approval of the contract for the construction of the Glen Haven natural gas extension. We discussed this in workshop as well. I believe is it up behind us? It is now. It is. All right. Anything to add to that other than the low bidder was half of what the second place bidder was?
That's, just of the mayor and he asked for the contract for all construction. I have done work first with that.
All right. Can I get a motion to award the contract to Raw Construction in the amount of $24,420? Hard to turn around and talk to the microphone. All right, so we have Mr. Hobbs making the motion, and Mr. Flowers seconding that. Is there any discussion? All right, hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Next on the agenda, we have to consider the approval of the purchase of half-ton pickup trucks for multiple departments. Ms. Juarez has those, and again, this was discussed in the open workshop. Ms. Juarez, anything to add to that?
There's nothing to add from the workshop. The low bidder is what we're recommending.
Okay, it's a local bidder, which
They were out in the capital budget.
fantastic. And I believe that is to Stallings Motors in the amounts listed on the screen behind you. And we would like the motion to incorporate third-party financing if necessary. Can I get a motion to approve the purchase of these vehicles under those conditions?
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, the ayes have it. We have also to consider a resolution to approve the GMA lease pool arrangements. As we discussed in workshop, this is something we need to adopt every year. We All right, can I get a motion to approve the GMA lease pool arrangements for this year? Second. We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All right, hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, the ayes have it. Item M is ratification of roof repairs at 207 Dawson Street. We covered that in open workshop as well. I believe it is behind us what that cost was that we are ratifying. Anything that we need to add to that? Okay. Can I get a motion to ratify the cost of the roof repairs that were made on 207 Dawson Street? All right, we have a motion. Second. And a second from Mr. Hobbs, Mr. Flowers and Mr. Hobbs. All right, any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. And finally, on the printed agenda, we have to consider the approval of a supplemental contract with the Municipal Gas Authority of Georgia Gas Portfolio 4 project. Steve, again, we discussed this in the workshop. Anything to add to that other than we're just replacing a series of contracts that have timed out?
Mr. Mayor, the city attorney has reviewed this contract as to form, and the staff recommends council approve this new contract so that the city can obtain long-term gas supplies for the city.
Okay, thank you. You've heard the city manager. Can I get a motion to approve the supplemental contract with MGAG?
So moved.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. All right, that is the end of the printed agenda. Mr. Sykes, do you have anything else for us?
Just one item. I want to thank staff for the quick reaction